Today's video, I'm going to go through automating SQL Server Availability Groups with Powershell. So what we're going to talk about is how do you add a database to an availability group without using the GUI? There may be reasons that you want to do this. Like you've got a lot of databases in your availability group, adding and removing them from the environment, going through and clicking. Yeah, it seems easy at first, but if you start adding many of them over time, and if you're adding and dropping them out of the availability group, it could become maintenance intensive. So, or if maybe you need automation. So in the case I was originally using for the script I'm going to show you guys, we had a process where we were taking our data from our production environment and moving into a lower level environment, development environment, which happened to also be an availability group. And so in order to do that restore from production, we would need to drop the database from the availability group and then add it back after the restore is done from production. And that's something we wanted to do hands-free and automated. So we needed a way to script it. And so that's the script I'm going to show you guys that I developed in order to have this run in the background as part of a process that was running in an automated fashion. The other case where this particular script comes into handy is if you've got TDE in your environment, so you're using transport data encryption, you're not able to use the GUI to manage adding and removing databases from your availability groups. And so a script like this can come in real handy for that as well. Okay, so we're going to jump over to the code here. So what you'll see is, and this is available in GitHub, so you guys can actually, I'll post the URL for this in the description of the video. So if you guys want to come and copy this code down, you're welcome to go and grab it and try it out in your environment. So there's just a little bit of code here. It's not much. It's less than 100 lines of code. What you'll notice, there's a couple of functions that I've got. I've got to add a database to the AG, and I've got remove a database from the AG. And so then there's some variables that we're going to go through, and then the actual calls to these procedures. So it's just going back up to the top. I want to highlight that you need to import the SQL PS module into your PowerShell environment so that you'll have some of these commandlets available for your function calls. So we go down to the bottom here. In my case, I'm calling remove DB from the AG, and then I add it back. And then I'm passing in some parameters, like the name of the availability group, the name of the primary instance, the name of the replica instance that I need to restore the database to and add to the AG, and then the database name. And then I have like a command timeout, because some of these cases, I want to make sure that I've got some sort of limit on the amount of time that it runs, because if something just hangs forever, you don't want your script sitting there for 10 hours if it only, in most cases, it only takes an hour to run. So that's what we got here. Our variables, I'm just setting up like a primary instance name, a secondary server instance name, our availability group name. This is the command timeout I'm using, so it's a pretty high value because I've got some pretty big databases. And then you need a disk share location, and what this is being used for is for the backups. So the backup target needs a target to go to, and this is a location that's available on both the primary and the secondary server. So you need a disk share and a local path. And then in my case, I'm disabling the transaction log backup because that could interfere with the adding to the database to the AG. Typically, when you add a database to an availability group, you need to do a full backup, and then you need to have at least one transaction log backup. And if you've got a job running independently of this script, it could interfere with what you're trying to do. So you don't want to have an extra log backup hanging out there that you don't know about. It's just because your script is going to go try and restore your full backup and then one log backup. And if there's another log backup out there, that'll break the log chain, and you won't be able to add the database to availability groups. So that's why that's there. So let's take a look at the add database to the AG. This is the real meat of this script. So you're taking in some parameters: the AG name, the instance, replica instance, database name, the disk share, the translog backup job name, command timeout, and then a local path. And then all you're doing is setting some local variables to your function, the database backup file. So it's going to back up to a database name .back. You're going to have a translog backup.trn. And then you're just going to get the actual files. So you're going to have the folder and then the name of the file for the full and the transaction log backup. And then these are the paths for the AG primary and secondary. And then you're just going to run some commands. So the first thing we're going to do is disable that translog backup. Then we're going to run a backup of the database, and we're going to direct it to that backup file. And we just have the name of the server here because you're running things in some cases remotely here. This is local if you're running it on the primary, but when you run some of these commands later on, you're going to be running them on the secondary. So in this case, we're going to send in the primary instance, and we're passing in our query timeout. Then we're going to do a log backup, pretty much the same thing. And we're going to pass in similar parameters for the primary instance in the command timeout. And then we are going to restore the database. And in this case, we're going to restore that on the replicate instance. And again, we're passing a query timeout. And then we restore the log. And we're restoring that to the replicate instance. And then when we're done, we're going to re-enable our transaction log backup. And then we are going to add the database to the availability group. So we're going to alter the availability group, and we're going to add this database to the availability group. We're going to run this command on the primary. And then on the secondary, we're going to come back, and we're going to set the header availability group equal to the AG name. And we're running this on the replicate instance. And then we're just going to remove that database backup file and log backup. So this is just cleanup. So that's the function in a nutshell of adding a database to the availability group. And we'll just go quickly to the remove. This is a lot simpler. So we're going to remove a database from the availability group with this function. We pass in the AG name, the primary instance, the replica instance, database name, and the command timeout. And here we are doing some exception handling. So we're doing the command, running the command alter availability group, AG, you give it the AG name, and you remove the database. And you're going to run that command on the primary instance. And this will just catch that exception if there was a problem and print the error out to the log. And then you're going to alter the database, set single user with rollback immediate. You're going to run that command. Again, you've got an exception handler. And then you're going to drop the database. And we're going to run this command on the replica. Very important, run that under replica, not the primary. And then you've got your command timeout. And so that's how you're removing a database from the availability group. And this drop is really preparing things for adding it back, because when you add it back, you're going to do the restore. And if you've got a database there, that might interfere with that. So that's the script. Hopefully that makes sense. If there's any questions, of course, you guys can reach out to me. But that's something you can put in your tool chest. So for today, I appreciate you guys watching. This is a script that has paid a lot of dividends for me. I've used it many, many times, and it saved me a bunch of time. So figured I'd share it. Again, I'll drop the URL for the GitHub link in the comments, in the description below the video. Hey, and I appreciate if you guys can like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave your comments and questions below, and share the channel. Thanks. Bye.